Hi, I'm Dan Schinder,
And I'm Steven Schinder.
and this is a news desk report on Yesshift, where we report the news of not just Yes, but other prog-related things going on in the news. Steve, what's up?
Yeah, like last time we did this a couple of nights ago, there were so many topics, so we decided to leave the rest of these to this episode. So, catching up on some of the news of the past couple weeks in this news desk edition.
A
Um,
lot.
yeah, like there's John Anderson stuff, Oliver Wakeman, both of the Wakemans who've been in Yes, really.
Steve
Um,
Howe.
yeah, and also the Outlanders single featuring Trevor Rabin. So those are a
Yeah.
few of the things that we'll talk about. But first, we want to continue with the feedback that we got. One of the emails we got was a longer one, so figured we'd start off with that
From a
one.
fan.
Yeah, from a fan.
Yeah, the most
Um,
important part of our show, you being part of it.
Yeah, and we'll read the feedback in full. He also had some suggestions, and we'll say what the suggestions are, but for the sake of time, we'll sort of summarize that part. But yeah, here we go. So this is from Taylor Savvy, who says, "Dearest Stephen and Dan Schinder, thanks for your podcast series. I've been enjoying listening to you both geeking out so hard on Yes lore.
I
My
love that, by the way. That's a great, he's got it. He nailed it. We are all geeking out on Yes, Lord. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome, Taylor.
Yeah. Continues. My first Yes record was Fragile. Hey, we talked about that recently. Which musically led me to practically everything else: jazz fusion, world music, field recordings, symphonic works, but it also led me to become a lifelong musician. That said, during the past year and a half, I've had to step back from playing live shows, and so more time has opened me up to rediscovering more music, and that's where you guys come into the picture. My Yes knowledge pretty much stopped after 90125. Listening to your show made me get back into the band hard. And so I've recently taken some deep dives into all the recordings from 1987 until now. Thanks so much for the re up."
Wow. First of all, that is really cool, Taylor. And, folks, if you don't mind, when you write in, I I think there'd be so much value for context to know how old you are.
Oh, well,
If,
he says at the end of the email he's 51.
oh, okay. If that's not too intrusive. And ladies, you can lie and say that you're older, but I think that, I think it's interesting to know that stuff. I'll read the next little bit here.
Okay.
More feedback. He says, I appreciate that, or she, I'm not sure. I appreciate the balanced commentary relating to the band politics, i.e., from your angle. I have a more balanced view of the input of Billy Sherwood and Jeff Downs, and in parentheses, not quite the band records as I once assumed. The band records, that's hilarious. That's for significant or insignificant others that people bring to rehearsal that they shouldn't. That's
Wow.
hilarious. And the stories of growing up watching Yes live content videos on TV as a kid have me in stitches. Oh, speaking of Steven's history with Yes, hilarious, Taylor says. And I can so relate to being a full-time musician performing all styles as one often must, but devoted to prog rock gods, Yes, as the bedrock. And then he's got some, or she, I'm sorry, we don't know.
It's a he, we know.
Oh, we do. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Ideas going back to those. He says, okay, I'm sure you both have piles and piles of episode ideas, but there are a few things I'd love to hear about from your angle. And first of all, thank you for that. That's really cool. So we're each going to read a title of the idea, and then we'll give just a couple cents on each one. Paris Session 79. That's a really good idea because there's a lot of mystery around that, and there's a lot of sort of unknown, stuff like what's the truth of what really went on. It's another occasion of the Yes that didn't happen. Steve, what's your take on that? I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, it's actually well documented, and some of those recordings are available to listen to. So, Yeah, I'd be down to revisit those songs and I guess talk about like what might have been and like and another thing he asks regarding that idea is why hire the same producer for Heaven and Earth, which gets into this next idea
Right.
that he mentions, which is Heaven and Earth. So like pretty much an overview of that album, um, and like why was it lacking in some places. Like that's basically the gist of it. Like, what was your take on that idea?
I like that idea. I don't want to, we're not a kiss ass show. We'll call it like it is. But I
Yeah,
also go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I'm pretty sure Heaven and Earth is both you and I's least favorite Yes album, but I'm a bit kinder to it, I think.
Yeah, and I think um the reason why is simply you're more familiar with it. It came out at a weird time of my life. A lot was going on, and I should be more fair and spend some time to it before we do that episode, of course. But I what I was getting at is it's not a kiss ass show, but I also never, I don't think, ever want to rip anybody or be too negative because all of this is subjective. If I were to come out and say I hate Relayer, people would fucking pile
Wow.
on me like no end,
Now
right?
people are gonna like edit that soundbite out and use it as quote unquote evidence that
Yeah,
you hate
Dan
Relayer.
Schinder says of Drunk Talk. Yeah, or but if someone says they hate Open Your Eyes or something more popular to not be that fond of, somehow that's okay. None of that matters. So we try not to put that much of a spin on how we feel about things, if that makes sense. So, Steve, I'll have to really take a really nice deep dive on Heaven and Earth before we do that episode
Hmm.
and answer some of the questions that Taylor has here that we won't get into right now. Next one, Steve, take number 3. And Taylor, good on you for so many suggestions.
Yeah, we got 6 of them. So this third one, the 70s solo albums.
Wait, they did solo albums?
Yeah. And you might know by now if you've listened to episodes before this one, but this is actually one we have announced that we're planning on doing. Like, we're doing the first solo albums from each Yes member since joining Yes.
Right.
And so these solo albums that Taylor is referring to during that like 75, 76 period, those will be all in there because those were all first for that relayer lineup, like that lineup's members.
I want to comment on that whole concept.
Yeah.
And I'll repeat this when we do the episode. But so in 75, I was 12 or 13 or
12.
whatever, 12. And thanks. I couldn't remember. And when I found out about them and other musicians doing solo albums, I thought that was so weird. I thought it was like cheating on somebody. Like what's going on? Why'd they have to? I didn't know any better. I didn't know.
Like you thought maybe they're breaking up or something.
Yeah, breaking up or not happy but as a musician personally and growing as a person and a musician, you realize, you're in a band for these colors on the palette. But if you have all these other colors in your toolbox, you need a palette to squeeze them on. And that's, I figured it out later. But when I was young, it was like, what's going on here?
Yeah. So those will be fun to revisit in the near future.
Yeah.
Probably in the new year, given
Yeah.
scheduling. So yeah. You want to read this next one?
Yeah. Band personal listening habits. So when I first read that, I thought, okay, does that mean earbuds versus an old fashioned Victrola versus a giant PA, like how you listen to stuff. But then I realized, it really refers to what are some other things that they're into, what influenced them, what might have influenced certain things that Yes has done. If we look at Relayer and Open Your Eyes, you have 4 of the same members. Yeah, you have 4 of the same members. Think about that.
Yeah.
For those of you who bag on all these different lineup changes, Relayer and Open Your Eyes have 4 of the same members out of 5 plus one more on Open Your Eyes. And I find that sort of like the foundation of that interesting question: what influenced them at certain times, or to do certain things at certain times that are so different from other things they've done. And if you really examine the music of Yes, most of the stuff they've done has been very different from everything they've done. You know, there's an easy way to throw Relayer, Tales, and Close to the Edge in one bucket. But if you really listen to those 3 things, they're totally different in a lot of ways. Wouldn't you agree, Steve?
Yeah, like Relayer has more jazz and fusion type of stuff on Sound Chaser.
And even just the sound of the instruments are so different as well. And the subject matter is so different. You know, there's all those considerations as well. So I like that question, you know, what influenced them to do certain things at certain times?
Yeah, well, that one was band personal listening habits. But the one after that, and we actually skipped one, but we'll circle back to it. Was musical influences. So, like, what made Chris gravitate toward the Rickenbacker tone, and also comparing like Bruford and White's drumming styles. So,
yeah, I wonder if Taylor's a drummer, or if he's suggesting that just because he knows I am, or, you know, I'd like to know. But that's a good conversation. And there is no better. There's never a better, and there's never a best. Not with music, not with cake, not with shoes, not with shopping malls. It's all subjective. It's what you like better. And so we're not going to get into comparing that way. And I know that's not what Taylor means, but just to sort of dissect and identify the differences in their styles, which is really cool, being that Alan played almost everything that Bruford did with Yes, yet his style and sound is so different. So it's a great topic. I love that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm curious how many instruments Taylor plays.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the last one, which we needed to mention, was interview with Benoit David, etc. And he has like all these different questions, which I'd be interested to learn Benoit's perspective on certain things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, like this is one that we've been wanting to do, so we'll have to see if we can get Benoit on the show somehow.
Yeah, I'm connected with him on Facebook, so I'll reach out to him and ask him. I told him that we were interested in that, and he said he was open to it. And then Taylor, as Stephen said, does reveal his age. He's in Berlin, and he's 51. So he's 7 or 8 years younger than I am, depending on when he was born. So that's good for context. You know, I think if you compare that to someone your age, you're 27 right now, versus a 14-year-old versus the 3-year-old when you binged on everything, you know, there's context there, you know.
Yeah, so thanks again for the email, Taylor, and we're glad to hear that you're enjoying the show, and we enjoy doing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
let's just say it's not always convenient, but we love doing it, and it's time that Steve and I get to spend together. Steve's not exactly an only child. My wife and I have a blended family of 11 kids. I have 4, she has 7. Steve's the youngest.
Right. And so let's get back into the news side of things.
Yeah.
So there were a few Chris Squire related things over the last few weeks. There was an article from Reverb on November 24th titled "Mood for a Day, Yes's Steve Howe on his classical prog rock masterwork." And again, I'll link all these articles in the episode description, whether you be listening to it on audio or watching the video or what.
Cool.
But yeah, like this was a cool piece. Like he talks about a few of his musical influences, and I also didn't know, or maybe I forgot, that "Mood for a Day" was written for his wife. So yeah, so that's pretty cool to know.
And they've been married forever. That's rare in that business.
Yeah. And on the 17th, there was a Guitar World article titled "Steve Howe on his greatest guitar gear hits and misses." And
that was great. That was a good read, folks. Even if you don't play guitar, even if you don't play an instrument. This is like sitting down with Steve Howe and getting some really neat insight. Really great advice too. I loved reading that.
Yeah, I've heard that. Well, I've only heard this from like one person, but um, I've heard that he can get talkative when it comes to gear. Like he loves talking about that type of stuff.
Sure.
So, yeah, and yeah, it's a great article. Once again. And there's also a new January 2022 issue of Guitar World that has been released and includes Steve Howe talking about the Quest. So I don't have this issue, but I'd be curious to hear like what he says in it. Like we've
Yeah.
heard like some interviews of him talk about it recently, but I'm the type of person who likes to like look at like, okay, does this have new info or what type of
Right.
thing? Um, and also there was a recent Guitar World article on December 1st. It was an interview with bassist Dave Pomeroy, and one of the questions he was asked was, you weren't tempted to switch to guitar? And he said, never. Guys like John Entwistle, Jack Bruce, Chris Squire, bass was a lead instrument in their hands. To me, bass is infinite. There's always more to learn. So, yeah, that
That's
was.
so true. Other examples, of course, would be Geddy Lee, um, Les Claypool from Primus. You know, there's some, and I think that that's what's astute about that comment is that really can go for any instrument. You know, if you look at bebop music, if you look at um, Dixieland and music from like the Louisiana area from the 20s and 30s, every instrument was a lead instrument. Seriously, the clarinet, the saxophone, the trombone, the trumpet, the fiddle, the washboard, everybody took a freaking solo. And if you want some insight to that, look up Tuba Skinny, one of my favorite bands, and they do 20s and 30s music and they exemplify that. So any instrument can be a bass instrument. I love that he points out who he does too, especially including Mr. Squire.
Yeah, so again, we see how influential Chris. Like, I bet when Chris started out, he wasn't expecting that he'd be listed among people like John Entwistle, who's like one of his musical heroes. You know?
Right. Yeah. How cool is it to be listed amongst your guitar heroes? I remember reading years and years and years ago, probably late 70s, early 80s at the most, how Alex Lifeson was so into Jimmy Page and Steve Howe were his biggest
Mm.
influences. And now his name is pretty much synonymous with them in guitar reader polls and stuff like that. So that is really cool.
Yeah, and speaking of
Wait,
bass.
and my name is mentioned with wait, no one.
But speaking of bass, the Yes official Facebook page recently shared on the 4th of December Billy Sherwood's Spotify playlist titled Billy Sherwood's Bass Inspirations. Um, so I took a look at what's on this, and I'm not sure if I should like spoil any of it, but I want to like ask you a question, Dad.
Yeah,
Um,
go ahead.
so there is one Yes song on this, and folks, you can like pause and guess what it is, and then see if you're right as well. But what one Yes song do you think is on this playlist?
So I just pulled it up, but I didn't look at the list yet. I intentionally didn't look at it when you sent me the notes. So what Yes song do I think is on the playlist as an influence to Billy? Jeez, out of the 2033 Yes songs, I'm gonna say it's something weird like either America or Onward.
Neither of those are correct.
Okay. Is it something more like significantly and obviously proggy, like Ritual or
I
something?
feel like it would be an obvious choice.
Roundabout?
No.
Mood for a Day. What is it?
It is Heart of the
Ah,
Sunrise.
da, ba, dee, ba, dee, bum, bum, ba, dee, ba, dee, da, bum, bum, diggy-doo-doo, doo-doo, bam, bum, bum. Of course, that's a lead bass song for sure. Wow, I'm going to read just a few of these. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Fool in the Rain, awesome by Zeppelin. Don't Stop Believing by Journey.
Mm.
Strange Brew by Cream. Oh, The Sheriff by Keith Emerson. There's some great stuff here. Wow, this one throws me for a loop. Mayor of Simpleton by XTC. I'll find one more.
Yeah, it's
Strange
weird
Hold
that.
by Paul McCartney.
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna say it's weird that it's the sheriff listed under Keith Emerson instead of Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Yeah, maybe because he was the primary or only writer. But there's some stuff by some other really great bands.
Yeah, like there's a Rush song in there.
Yeah, the Beatles, Rush, Gentle Giant, one of my favorites, King Crimson, UK, Joni Mitchell. A lot of people don't know this. Joni Mitchell played a 19-string Rickenbacker triple neck. Just kidding. A song by the band. There's some great stuff here. So I won't spoil the whole thing. Oh, Weather Report, Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yeah, I want to give this whole thing a listen at
Yeah.
some point. Yeah, I don't use maybe this is weird for people, but I don't listen to Spotify as often as I listen to music via YouTube.
Same here. I hardly use it.
Right. But they do this thing at the beginning of December where it's called Spotify Wrapped, and basically they tell you, "Oh, these were the songs that you listened to the most, and this is the artist you listened to the most."
Oh.
And so in my case, unsurprisingly, my most listened artist was Yes, and my top 5 songs, should I read them off real quick?
Yeah.
So from number 1 to 5 were Future Memories, which apparently is my top listened song, even though I only listened
Really?
to it 4 times. Like that's how often I listen to Spotify. And then The Ice Bridge, Dare to Know, Minus the Man. So clearly I was on a quest.
Binge.
Binge,
Yeah.
that's a word. But for number 5, there's Battle Cry by Tony Kaye from his solo album End of Innocence, which we talked about.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, apparently 219 minutes I streamed of like Yes music. So yeah.
Interesting.
Anyway. Yeah, folks, share your Spotify Wrapped, and especially if it has Yes, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
Comment on like any of these things we're talking about. Okay, so moving on, we got a bit of Jon Anderson news. So
he was in Yes for a while, right?
Yeah, I think so, like for a little bit at least. Yeah, so apparently there was a post back in late October about this going on, which I missed, but this is a more recent one from November 19th. This was posted by Michael Franklin, who was a producer and performer on Jon Anderson's 1000 Hands, and he produced Robbie Steinhardt's solo album Not in Kansas Anymore. And so his post says, "Thanks to everyone for the successful release of Robbie Steinhardt's solo album Not in Kansas Anymore. We are back in the studio immersing ourselves in Jon Anderson 1000 Hands Chapter 2, a splendid time had by all." So
interesting.
Yeah, so I had you listen to Chapter 1 on our recent road trip. So what do you think of this news, Dad?
I love it. I'm really excited to hear what's next, and I'm glad that he's so busy cranking out new music. To be so, I was gonna say, I'll just say it, so far advanced in age. What is he, 77?
Yeah, he's 77 now.
Yeah, and to be doing this, and I mean, look at the smile on his face, and Chapter 2, I'm ready for it.
Yeah, I think some of it will probably be archival stuff again, but retouched and made to sound like, today. And like there are lots of like pretty much an all-star cast of musicians on chapter 1. So here's two questions I have for you, Dad.
Okay.
If you could have one Yes member, past or present, on chapter 2, um, and keep in mind, chapter 1 had some stuff by Chris, Alan, and Steve. So if you could have one Yes member on chapter 2, who would it be?
Oh God. Well, since they were on chapter 1, I'd love to. I would select Rick Wakeman.
Okay.
Yeah, even though they've done some other stuff together, but it's not like we got a ton of new original material from them with ARW. So
Right. And
I'd say Rick Wakeman.
yeah, and it's been a while since that Anderson Wakeman album, so maybe.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with that.
okay.
That
My
or Francis.
Yeah, my answer is kind of different. It's like I know it's one that'll probably not happen, but I think it would be really cool if Jon Davison like guested on it
Oh
somehow.
wow! And did maybe a duet or something?
Yeah, because like I remember around the time of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame thing, he took a picture with John Anderson. It was like,
Right.
yeah, we're gonna record an album and show the haters it's all about the music, and then like nothing came of that. So like I would still love to hear something with both the Johns
They
on
should
it.
pick one song from Heaven and Earth and do a duet.
Yeah, I
That
mean,
would really be
even just
cool.
that, I would love. Yeah. All right, and my other question is, what famous musician who's never been in Yes would you love to have on chapter 2?
Great question. Folks chime in as well. And I'm going to go with so I'm thinking of John and his music and what would Ian Anderson.
Okay.
And
Yeah, he was actually on chapter 1
was
as
he?
well.
Oh, okay. Then yeah, that's right. Okay. Then someone different that wasn't on chapter 1. Then I would say maybe Patrick Moraz.
Oh yeah, that would be cool. Wait,
Yeah.
but he
Oh, well,
was
you
in
said that
Yes though.
wasn't in Yes. That means I can't choose Francis Monkman either. So so okay, I'd say so. I'm gonna reach way out and say would Eddie Jobson count? I'd say oh, the name escapes me. Talk amongst yourselves real quick. I gotta look it up. I'm so embarrassed I have to look this up.
Right. And I have like the list of musicians from chapter 1.
Okay, and give your answer first, and
Yeah,
I'll
'cause
look up. And I listen who I'm looking up. I listen to almost daily, and I can't believe I'm just having
oh wow.
a,
Yeah,
a brain
so
fart.
my answer would be Geddy Lee. Like I think that would be cool if they
Oh,
like did
yeah,
like
I
a
was not even close to that. So I was gonna say one of the names came to me, Kerry Livgren, the keyboard player from Gentle Giant, and what a total brain fart. I'm sorry, that's Kerry Minier. Oh, Kerry Livgren, that's from Kansas. Kerry Minier from Gentle Giant or Gary Green, the guitar player. Funny that I'm not picking a drummer, right? Oh, I will pick one, a percussionist. Peter Lockett, world percussion player,
okay.
who's played with Robert Plant, Peter Gabriel, Amy Winehouse. He's been on the show a few times. He was going to do that thing in Bermuda with us, but then
Oh,
COVID
nice.
hit. Yeah.
Oh.
So I feel horrible that I brain farted on the Gentle Giant members. I literally listen to them almost every day.
Right. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I'm wondering if it might come out next year. Like I'm curious like how quick they'll be able to finish this.
Sorry, I have a puppy in a pen right outside my office. Now he's barking and my door is open. Sasha. Okay, sorry.
All right, and moving on, there are also, Oliver Wakeman has been posting stuff on Facebook.
Yeah. Oh, that thing you sent me today. Or maybe it wasn't from today, but I saw it today where he did a demonstration of a Yamaha electric piano, that red one, and he picked something, Life on Mars from David Bowie that his dad played on.
Yeah.
And he's just as witty as his father. It's a great video. And it really like lifted me up. It was really cool to see that.
Yeah, like apparently, well, I'm just looking at the video description right now. So, he says the concert was videoed on a camera phone for a live stream at the time, which has long since been deleted. However, I recently managed to get a copy, and so thought I would put it on the channel for you to enjoy. And yeah, it's really cool to see that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And he's also posted like some instruments like this Triton Pro. Also, like even like posted a picture of a couple guitars, which like these look really cool. And they can be found on his Facebook page pretty easily because they're recent. He also posted a picture of this poster he has of the Yes and Asia tour that we saw and autographed by like all the musicians that were on that. It looks really cool.
Yeah, that is beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the first time you saw Yes, right?
Yeah,
And
it was.
Asia. Yeah.
Yeah, so like it was like seeing Steve Howe play two concerts almost.
It not almost, it really was. And do you remember, I'm pretty sure it was that show when Steve's glasses fell off.
Yeah, I think that was during And You and I, and then he had to like play his solo without his glasses, and they gave him new ones when he was done.
And he didn't move because he couldn't see where they were, and he didn't want to step on them.
Right. Yeah. Like it took a moment, and like the people working on the stage like ran over and like
his tech shoes.
Yeah.
And that was folks, for reference, I don't remember the date. You probably do, Steve, but it was at the MGM in Vegas.
Yeah, I think it was in June of 2009.
Yeah.
So 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And
so there that would have been, yeah, that's right. Right before we went to Australia forever. Yeah.
Right. And just yesterday, as of when we're recording this, Oliver posted a video on his YouTube channel where he talked about Dark Fables.
Right.
Basically the like thinking process of like what to put on it, and like he talked about the box set it was part of, and like Jabberwocky, and what was the other one that was on there? It was, well, I'm like blanking on it.
Ice Bridge.
No,
or a version of it.
No, it was another literary one that he did.
Yeah,
like he did it with Clive. He did these with Clive Nolan, and The Hound of the Baskervilles.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and something that I like he also talked about was how his dad Rick read the Jabberwocky poem, and parts of it were on the Jabberwocky album, but he included like him reading the entire poem, I think, at the end of Dark Fables. So
interesting.
Yeah, that's really cool. But also, and this is the last Oliver thing we'll mention here. He made a post where he said he posted a picture of this Korg keyboard, and he says, "Work continuing with writing and recording for the new album today. I thought it was about time I fired this one up and used it on an album." So yeah, that was on the 27th of November, and looks like he's working on a new solo album. So
that's cool.
Yeah, well, like with Oliver, I love hearing like the stuff that he puts out. Like I haven't heard the majority of it, but what I've heard from him, it's like he's just so talented, and this is kind of a weird thing, but when I think of Oliver, I think he's always like, I always think to myself, oh yeah, Oliver's in his late 30s, because like that's when he was when he was in Yes. But then I have to remind myself, oh wait, he's on his late 30s, he's almost 50, and it's kind of
Yeah.
weird. But yeah, good to see that he's busy with some new stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. And on to Rick Wakeman, his father, for those who might not know for whatever reason. So he's been pretty busy as well. Apparently, he appeared on a British game show called The Chase Celebrity Special on November 20th. I was not able to find any clip of this.
Darn.
Yeah, but apparently he's been on this show before, like a few years ago. So maybe it'll come up at some points. I don't know.
Huh.
He also appeared on the podcast Rock on Tours with Gary Kemp and Guy Pratt.
Is it Gary Kemp and Guy Pratt's show?
Yeah, it's their show.
Guy Pratt is a great musician, great bass player, and of course toured with Pink Floyd. Great musician. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and he talked about Straubs and David Bowie joining Yes, and the capes that he got. So some of the stuff was familiar, but there were bits of things that were new to me. And
cool.
It's still fun to hear him tell the stories, even if I've heard them before.
I love this next one. The Ultimate Classic Rock article. Rick Wakeman details the fine line between grumpy and angry. I gotta read that. I haven't been able to read it yet. That's hilarious.
Yeah, that was a fun one. And like the person who interviewed him also asked him. Well, they talked about how like he was recently, I guess, like the Queen named him commander over in England, and so he talked about what that process was like.
Wow.
And he also talked about when he met Brian May around the time of Going for the One.
Oh, wow. It was way back then. I didn't know that. I know that he had Brian May on his show, that interview show that Rick hosted called, do you remember which one I mean? He had Tony Iommi, Ian Anderson.
Yeah, I remember it. I don't remember the name off the top of my head, though.
Yeah, darn. It was a great show. I can't think of the name.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just seeing if like anything. Oh, was it Gas Tank?
No, Gas Tank was more of a live performance kind of thing. Ian Pace was on that. John Lord was on it. It was Face to Face, I think, with Rick Wakeman.
Okay.
I think that was it. Face to Face with Rick Wakeman.
All right. Folks, email us if you know, and
if
we're wrong.
Pretty sure that. Here, I'll look it up while you read the next one.
Okay. And on Rick's YouTube channel, he's been posting videos from the 2018 recorded live portraits. Songs include The Jig, Claire du Lune, And You and I, and Wondrous Stories.
Face to Face. That's the name of the show.
It was. Okay. And yeah, these videos look well filmed. They like the London Cathedral's architecture looks really great in these videos. And, he has like such a sense of humor. Like there's in one of the videos for one of these songs, it begins with him saying, some people think that prog rock has no melodies. And then I have to say, oh no, you're thinking of jazz. And like that like made me laugh out loud and think, oh, Bill Bruford's gonna have a word with him, I think.
And then it says also a workout video. You mean like a workout video?
Yeah, I don't want to spoil what it is. It's well edited and it's really funny. And and I'll link it in the description.
I gotta see that. Doesn't look like Rick's worked out in a while.
Well, I mean, he works out his hands at least on the keyboard.
Yeah, and a fork from plate to.
Okay, we're not gonna go there. And his Christmas tour in the UK began last week. So
cool.
Yeah, I haven't been able to find what the set list is for that. So like if anyone knows, like I'd be very curious to hear.
Yeah, and especially if you've seen it, and especially if you pulled out the old phone and made a video clip, send it. We'll feature it on our page.
Yeah, I think Rick is like he gets annoyed by people like video recording his
shows. Really?
Yeah. So
didn't know that.
Right. But yeah, but moving on, wow, how many times have I said moving on this episode?
Probably
Um
each time we move
yeah,
on.
like 10 times or something. Tom Brislin got a mention in on NorthJersey.com's list of 10 Christmas songs by New Jersey artists.
Huh.
Uh, yeah, so this is by his band Spiraling. It was a mashup between Do You Hear What I Hear and The Who's Baba O'Reilly. Um, and so the paragraph says, a case of holiday magic, Dunalon keyboard maestro Tom Brislin, who's performed for Yes, Meatloaf, and now Kansas, and his band Spiraling combined Do You Hear What I Hear, first made a hit by Bing Crosby 1963, with The Who's Baba O'Reilly for a sublime seasonal excursion that is quite uplifting. We also love Nut Rocker too. Yeah, Spiraling has performed Nut Rocker, and like I watched a video of it. It's very rocking. It's really cool.
Cool.
Yeah. And then we got John Lodge's The Royal Affair and After got delayed. Um, so he posted, as most of you, as most of us already know, there is a worldwide supply chain issue affecting almost every business, including the music industry, that is not immune to this problem. We are very sorry to say our distributor has just informed us that, despite their best efforts at trying to move mountains, there has been a production and shipping delay with John's new release, and the CDs will not be ready in time for the anticipated December 3rd release. The revised release date for digital and CD is now January 14th, with a limited edition blue vinyl still on track for January 29th. Um, and it also says John and all his team are very upset by this news and hate to let you all down, especially those of you hoping Santa would leave it under your tree on Christmas. In the meantime, we hope you are enjoying Ride My Seesaw and Gemini Dream, both available digitally to download/stream and on YouTube. Thank you for your understanding. We can't wait to share the album with you. So, yeah, it looks like this album's got a bit of a delay, but it's not too far away, I don't think.
Right.
Um,
That's not that far off. It's just that it's, if it wasn't around the holidays, it wouldn't be as much of an issue. But like you
right,
said, I was hoping it would be a Christmas gift, holiday gift for people.
right. Yeah, but at least it's still coming. There's also a recent Goldmine Magazine interview with him that came out on November 22nd, um, where he said, well, he was talking about the live album and saying, Graham Edge was a great supporter of my solo efforts, and he contributed a reading of his poem Late Lament from Days of Future Past. I very much wanted him to voice his own poem, so he recorded it for me and I filmed him recording it. I do that on stage prior to Nights in White Satin. I didn't want to do that one myself, so Jon Davison from Yes joined me on stage and sang the lead on that one. His voice was superb. His version is fantastic. He and my daughter Emily have been together 3 years, and it really is fantastic for me because musically we get along very well. We've been playing together when we're not on the road, and we've also written some songs together as well.
Hmm.
We're both really pleased. In fact, we just finished a new song, which I'm really excited about. So yeah, it's been a fun time.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm really like looking forward to hearing whatever this music they've made together
Yeah.
is. Cause yeah, it seems like they get along very well, and like, I mean, yeah, you like heard that whole like paragraph there. So,
Yeah.
and I also found out that the Trevor Horn Band is slated to perform at the Fairport Cropredy Festival next year on August 11th. Um, and this has like a really
Mark your
cool,
calendars.
yeah, like I'm looking at the poster right now. So the festival is on August 11th, 12th, and 13th, and it's got like a really stacked list of artists, among them being Steve Hackett's Genesis Revisited.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, yeah, good to hear that Trevor is still busy.
Yeah. Who else is on that, Bill?
Um, let's see. I see Turin Breaks, the Sharon Shannon Quartet, the Slambovian Circus of Dreams. That's a funny name. Martin Joseph, Home Service, Emily Barker, Maddle Morris, um, Edward II, the Thumping Tommies, Fairport Acoustic. Um, oh, maybe this is one as well. Clanad.
Hmm.
Um, I think that might be a band name. Richard Thompson, Matthews Southern Comfort, Rosalie Cunningham, the Bar Stewart
Interesting.
Sons of Val Dunican, Holy Moly and the Crackers, special guest Seth Jakeman, Compeer, Anthony John Clark. Yeah, yeah, I think I read everyone.
Cool.
Um, yeah, so it's a long ways away, but I mean, yeah. Okay,
Cool.
so now we're on to the last news item for the night. I'm surprised we got to this one this quickly,
Yeah.
honestly. So the Outlanders released a single called Closer to the Sky, which features Trevor Rabin. And I gotta say, I remember when I first heard about this, I think I may have thought it was going to be an album, but apparently this is a single that came out on
Yeah, I thought it was
November.
going to be an album too.
Yeah, it came out November 26th. Wow, lots of stuff happened on that day. There's like a lot of news I had to share to our Yesshift Facebook page that
Yeah.
day. But yeah, did you want to read that that thing that they typed out on their site?
Yeah. So it says this song was meant for one of my rock releases one day when I sat down to write the first ideas with Eric Nyholm in Finland many years ago. Eric had been involved in my rock albums as a songwriter before and after, but here was something that was the particular song that made me think I must leave it for another time. The song changed name at least 3 times during its creative process and had different lyrics and moods. Only recently I finished writing the dark, wait, only recently I finished writing the dark but hopeful lyrics and the rest of the music for it. It fits perfectly as an opener for Outlanders because of its catchy melody, wishful lyrics, and the mood it captures. We knew that we needed an extraordinary guitar player, a rock soul with a progressive mind that could imagine the song being part of a movie soundtrack. That's Trevor Rabin for sure.
Yeah.
They didn't write that. That's my commentary. Back to the quote. We had only one name in mind. There you go. Trevor Rabin did just an outstanding job with his edgy, incredible guitar sound. He made the song reach another level, and for that, I am deeply grateful. It only happens when the player's soul is involved, and that really was the case here. Trevor is unique and truly a gentleman. Trevor really does understand. If you say, hey, give it a movie score feel, he understands that. He's done how many music scores? 6, a
A
dozen?
lot.
A lot would be the number, even in metric.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a really cool quote from Tarja. And yeah, Trevor Rabin. Like, I feel like there's a couple different hats he wears. Like, there's Trevor Rabin, the rocker, and Trevor Rabin, the film composer. And I feel like this kind of
There's
felt like. Oh, go ahead.
sorry, there's one more. He's a really good lead vocalist, and he's also
Oh,
a
yeah. Well,
really
I was
good.
including that in the rocker thing.
Yeah, but yeah, and I think it deserves being noted that he's also a really good background backup vocalist. And
Mm.
if you listen to Jason Bonham's first album, The Disregard of Timekeeping, that's Trevor Rabin doing almost all the background vocals with Daniel McMaster on that album, and it's phenomenal. When I interview Jason on Drum Talk TV, I want to ask him, why did you just do that? I think they just did one album. It's so good, and Trevor's voice is all over it, layered and layered and layered and layered in multiples. It's really cool. So I think he deserves that as well.
Wow, this is like the first time I'm hearing about this. I need to listen to this.
Check it out. It's a great album. It's a great album. I just taught my 15-year-old drum student Wait for You, which is a killer song.
Nice. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I feel like this single kind of feels like a blend between like the rocker and the film composer, but leaning more toward the film composer angle. Cause
Right.
like I remember a few years ago when, Jon was talking about ARW and he was saying, oh, Trevor's gonna make the song sound cinematic. It's like, I kind of get what he means. Like this song, Closer to the Sky, it feels like it could be part of a film
Yeah,
soundtrack. Maybe someone's driving and they're reflecting, or they go to the beach or
exactly.
something. Um, and like, lots of Yes songs, I don't imagine them like, I don't imagine like their songs that could have been tailored for a film.
Sound Chaser,
Right.
The Ancient. Sorry.
Whereas something like this, like if someone had told me this was tailored for a film, I'd be like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's really neat that he has, how many rockers have that stamp on them where legitimately they've done it and they're known for it and they're called on for that element. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and the song itself is really good. Like it feels like it's kind of moody and it has some really good guitar textures. The vocals are great. The first listen, I didn't fully understand the lyrics, but once I like looked up what they were, it's like, okay, this helps me to like understand it better. It's on their site, which I'll link in the description of this episode.
And for those
Uh,
of you who don't know, the reason being is English is actually Stephen's, I think, fourth language. So it's
what?
sarcasm, belligerent, Spanish, and English. There you go.
All right, that's fair. Yeah, like
A
I
lot
want.
of news, man. That was extrapolated as sort of a part two from what we recorded a few days ago. So much going on and pretty much all Yes related.
Yeah, and I was just gonna add, like, I really want to hear more Outlanders
Yeah,
now, and like we've said this before, but it's really cool how because of all the Yes members and what they've been involved in, we get to like discover other artists through like
right.
who they collaborate with. I mean, like, imagine this, Dad. Like, if Yes had only been one lineup like the entire time, like if it was just the original lineup and no lineup changes, like how many artists would we maybe not have checked out because of Yes? Like there might have been some that we checked out because they were prog giants, but like, it's just bizarre to think about,
Yeah,
how much
because
less we would have checked out.
the first part of that answer is everybody that ended up being in Yes after that first lineup.
Right, yeah.
That alone is like 22 people, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, if Steve Howe had joined Jethro Tull instead, I guess you would have already been into Jethro Tull and known about them anyway, but yeah, I guess
Yeah,
that's, yeah, it's just a weird what if to think about,
absolutely. That's a great question. Yeah. Cool, folks. Thanks so much for following what we do. Chime in, give us your thoughts, email us at yesshiftpodcast@gmail.com. You can give us suggestions for our show, just like Taylor did. Stephen and I are always brainstorming. Brian Harris, fan Brian Harris, gave us a couple of great suggestions we're actually studying up on right now. You can also follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Yesshift. And where can they hear our podcast, Steve?
They can go to anchor.fm/Yesshift and see all the weird podcasting platforms we're on. So
And you
Apple,
might be saying,
Spotify, and some other places.
right, and you might be saying, no shift. I'm listening to that now. But did you see what I did there? But for
Yeah.
people that are just following us on Facebook, they might not know that. So if you like audio only, if you're on the go, on the run, on the trot, sitting on the pot, whatever, you can follow us on Anchor too.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, I guess that'll be it for this Yesshift News Desk edition. And
We
looking
have a new
forward to.
episode coming soon that's going to feature our first guest. We're recording that Saturday, the 11th, with Mike Tiano of Notes from the Edge fame. And I've got a interesting fact I've been withholding from Stephen about that for like his whole life that I'm going to spill out on him and Mike during the interview. And we're going to review, with Mike present, Mike's new album, which Steve and I have taken a deep dive into together, in fact, on a recent very long road trip. So look for that. And we are reaching out to some other Yes members and another very special relative of Yes that I don't want to reveal yet, that I'm so excited about. So stay tuned, and thanks again, folks.
Bye.